And just let me know once you get your microphone situation set up, and then we'll begin. We're good? Okay. Are we live? Hello, everybody. This meeting will be held in accordance with Executive Order N2920, issued by California Governor Gavin Newsom on March 17th, 2020, the Ralph M. Brown Act, California Government Code, Section 54950, and the Federal Americans with Disabilities Act. This meeting will be open to the public. Seating capacity will be limited to the first 30 people on the first-come, first-served basis. Compliance with all health and safety guidelines, including COVID-19 screening, temperature checks, face coverings, and physical distancing measures will be required for in-person attendance. Zoom meeting information was posted on the agenda. Remote public comment is also available for city council meetings by emailing the city clerk at cityclerk@ci.series.ca/US by 5 p.m. the day of the meeting. Include the agenda item number or public comment period in the subject line of the email. The clerk may read written comment into the record if specifically requested to do so at the beginning of your email. Your written comment will be distributed to the city council and kept on file as part of the official record of the city council meeting. Welcome everybody to the city council meeting, Monday, June 28th, 2021. Let's go ahead and call to order. Let's get a roll call.
Councilmember Rhino. Here. Councilmember Silvera.
Here.
Vice Mayor Condit.
Here.
And Mayor Lopez.
Here. And today we have an invocation by Pastor Chris Henry from the Ceres Christian Center. Is he here today? Do you guys know if he's going to be on Zoom?
It does not appear that Pastor Henry is on Zoom either.
Or in the audience.
So do we skip this, or would anybody like to give the invocation? Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Please bow your head in prayer. Father God, thank you for allowing us to gather here today and exercise our rights as citizens of this free country. Father God, please be with our leaders here tonight. Be with our men and women in uniform. Be with our public safety officials. And please help guide us and help us make correct decisions and make sure that, that whatever we do in the best interest of the community and be good stewards of each other and be good neighbors upon each other, dear Lord. Father God, please be with the city of Ceres, be with our federal government, our state government, and just continue to bless us, dear Lord. So we are so grateful and thankful for your love that you have given us. Amen.
Okay, thank you for that. We're moving on to citizens' communications. Just a reminder to the councils and matters that are not included on the agenda, you are only allowed 5 minutes. While the city council welcomes and encourages participation in the city council meetings, adopted rules allow no more than 5 minutes. Resolution number 2007-106 for expression of non-agenda items. Matters under the jurisdiction of the city council and not on the posted agenda may be addressed by the general public. However, California law prohibits the city council from taking any action or any matter which is not on the posted agenda unless it is determined to be an emergency by the city council. Citizens are entitled to address the city council on any agenda items on to the 5-minute provision. Public comments is now open. We'll first call on those who are present in the chambers. Doesn't look like we have yellow cards today, but thank you.
Dave Pratt series. I want to talk about the dog parks. It was closed down for 2 months, allow the lawn to grow back because of the mud holes and stuff. And because you're still butchering the lawn, that we're starting to see the same thing. We're starting to get a lot of grassless areas, and you'll probably wind up having to repair the lawn again. And another thing, because you're not doing anything about the gopher population, there's some dogs that are digging where the gopher activity is. So we need to quit butchering the lawn, allow it to grow. Also, I want to talk about the trees again. It seems like the limbs are certain. You can't see the street signs or the stop signs and stuff because the limbs are covering them. The tree guys may do up in the tops, but nobody is doing down low. Thank you.
Thank you.
Uniquely serious. I just want to address the fireworks program that they got. I know the chief a couple of years ago started a campaign that wasn't present before that, and the fine went up to $1,000, and now it's going up to $2,500. I want to thank everybody, the city council, the chief, the fire chief, Jeremy, and the public works. He got his men out to put signs out and stuff. But there's one problem. Those signs are political size lawn signs. And in 2019, I addressed the city council about getting some electronic signs like they use in some other cities in California and place them at the threshold of the off ramps so people could see this big, huge screen telling people that violation of fireworks was a certain amount of money. I made a mistake today and I didn't get a picture sent over to Diane, the city clerk, so you could see if you haven't seen one. And again, I go back to Monterey, there's such a model. And right off the off ramp is this huge gas powered sign. It could have been battery, but I think it was gas. And it stays on all day and all night, several days before 4th of July and a couple of days after. And it flashes that big dollar sign up there, but it's a violation. And those little signs are good. I see people looking at them, but we're not addressing it to the mass. And that's what the problem is. Hopefully, this will stop some stuff. But, I think we all know by watching television and the news from Sacramento and other cities in California that this is a problem with the fireworks every year. And I hope that the chief here, his men, kind of quell some of that on the 4th of July, the days before and after. But probably the personal opinion of people who live here, it's going to be escalated from even last year. That remains to be seen. But this money that they collected, maybe we can do this next year since we didn't do it this year. Put some of that money that if they ever get any money back from these fines, towards renting some of these signs, these electronic signs, and putting them I counted maybe 5 major areas to try to stop this. You're not going to stop it all, but you're going to make it a lot nicer and peaceful for a lot of people who live here if you put those signs up, and that dollar really probably makes a difference. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Rhino?
Chief Collins, we do use those for special events. Are we able to use those for this campaign, fireworks campaign?
Yes, it's possible.
Can we get those out as soon as possible?
Yes.
Thank you.
Good evening, council
Go
members.
ahead.
John Warren, City of Ceres. That was a question I was going to ask in regards to the programmable signs. Does the city have those that could be moved around? I'm sure there are some with Public Works, even with the police department in regards to that. The signs that are part of the campaign that we obtained at the corporate yard are fairly small. They're residential. They're kind of designed for neighborhoods. Driving up and down Hatch Road and trying to read one of them. If you know what the sign says, of course, it's easy enough to read. But as most folks speeding along, they don't notice much on the side of the road anyway. So those signs are somewhat ineffective and they blow over. And they're maybe not readable as the people pass by. When I went looking for one to place in my yard, I think there was 4 left available. And Jeremy was kind enough to score one for me. And, I was able to make note of it and place it so my neighbor next door could read it and know what he's not supposed to do that he did last year. Other than that, good luck with the campaign. And hopefully there's some extra enforcement available for the coming week. Thank you.
Thank you. If there is no one here, let's go ahead and proceed to Zoom comments.
Yes, Mayor. First person with their hand raised is Lee Brandt. Mr. Brandt, I'll unmute your mic. Mic is unmuted.
Well, good evening, council. Let's hope our meeting tonight doesn't go until midnight like the last one did. I just wanted to talk about, the fireworks thing. I understand that the city is doing as much as they possibly can, and I do understand that. But boy, howdy, I mean, these people should be ashamed of themselves of what they're doing to our veterans and to our animals. It's really sad. And then I would also like to talk about the Central Avenue Speedway that goes from Caswell all the way to Hatch, which it's almost like a drag strip. I don't know what can be done about it, if there can be anything done about it. And that also conveys Hatch Road from 99 to Mitchell. You can hear them. I mean, they are these Camaros, the Mustangs, the Chargers, and you can hear them. They're just flying down the road. I had an incident that happened to me the other day. I was westbound on Hatch Road, turning left onto Moffett. I was the first one in line. We were waiting for the cross traffic to go. First one way went, and then the second way went. And I noticed that oncoming traffic to me, that there was a motorcycle that pulled in between the 2 vehicles that were headed eastbound. And I have no problem splitting lanes with a motorcycle. I did it when I rode a motorcycle. But this person, what he did is he just blatantly took off. It was obviously he had the red light. A car that was going across from me heading, what would that be? Southbound on Moffett, almost hit him. And it's like, okay, that's fine. But you know what? What really got me is there was a little kid on the back of that motorcycle. And it just tore me up. And then I make the left-hand turn on the Moffett, and then there's the covered cars, the tents in the front of the house, and I mean, John Warren has complained about this, all I can say is good luck. The city needs to do something about getting something cleaned up. I understand the Parks Committee, they went and they cleaned up Smyrna Park and they did a fantastic job, and they're probably going to do other parks. But maybe what they should do is they should start sweeping the streets, not with a street sweeper, but with people, and pick up the garbage and get people to be a little bit more responsible for their neighborhood. I wish everybody a safe and sane 4th of July. It's just too bad it's gonna be so darn loud. In fact, it already is. Bless you all and good night.
Thank you very much for those kind words. Do we have anybody else?
Yes, Mayor. Next person is John Osgood. Mr. Osgood, I will request to unmute your mic.
Welcome, Mr. Osgood.
Right. Everybody hear me okay? We're on a Bluetooth device today. Hello?
It's a little low.
Okay, let me try this. I'll try to be a little louder. I'm not trying to yell at anybody. I just want to make sure you guys can all hear me. Heard a couple council members say over the past several meetings that they represent the whole of Ceres. Like to let you individuals that feel that way know, as soon as we went to district elections for council members, you at that point represented only your district. Sitting on that dais and insisting that you represent the whole of Ceres is disrespectful to your districts. It's not genuine to the principles of districting. State law, as we know, does not force us to district in Ceres. If y'all would like to continue to represent the whole of Ceres, let's go back to at-large elections. Otherwise, let's change the verbiage, folks. Let's start acting like the representatives that we are of the limited areas that we represent. On another note, before we start voting on contracts and such, we probably should read contracts. We probably should contemplate the language in those contracts. I can't be the only one picking apart issues with the most recent contracts that we've had. And I just expect you guys and representatives, when you start looking at these contracts, to look at them with a closer eye and take into consideration legal definitions of things, because we are dealing with government. We are dealing with legal definitions. Thank you and have a great evening.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else on Zoom?
No, Mayor, there's no other hands raised.
Do we have any emails? Okay. The public comment period is now closed. Moving on to conflicts of interest. Is anybody on the city council that would like to declare a conflict of interest? No? Moving on to the consent calendar. All matters listed on the consent calendar are considered routine in nature and will be enacted by a single motion unless otherwise requested by an individual council member or public for a special consideration. Otherwise, the recommendation of staff will be accepted and enacted upon one roll call vote. Is there anybody on the council that would like to pull a consent item for further discussion? Vice Mayor?
Yes, Mayor, item 7, 9,
Just those two?
and 10.
Any other council members like to pull in items? Is there anybody from the public that would like to pull an item? Zoom and or in person? Mr. Yakeley? Oh, then you need to pull it. What number is it? I'm sorry, what? Which number is it? Number 6? Okay, thank you. Is anybody else? Okay. If we can get a motion to pass the rest of the consent items.
I'll move to pass consent calendars 1 through 6, 8, 11,
Not 6, 6,
12, and 13.
1 through 5, not 6. 6 was actually Yakeley.
I'm sorry, 1 through 5, 8, 11, 12, and 13.
Second,
Can we get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Ryan,
yes.
Councilmember Silvera,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Condit,
Aye.
and Mayor Lopez.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0.
We'll go ahead and start off with number 6, resolution number 2021-59. authorizing staff to submit an application to the Bureau of Justice Assistance for the Patrick Leahy Bulletproof Vest Partnership Grant to reimburse up to 50% of the purchase costs of ballistic vests for the police department. Mr. Collins. I believe, Mr. Yeakley, you just wanted some clarification on this item?
There's no problem with that I have with that. I just want to know, here we are again, we're citizens. We're not involved in each person's department here. And so I would like to know what the Patrick Leahy Bulletproof Vest Partnership Grant is. And is this a reimbursement for half of the cost that the city has to pay? Or is that something, does the individual police officer by his own, he gets reimbursed money? And at the same time, if they have that program, to me, and I was in the police station this afternoon, I think everybody in that damn building should have a bulletproof vest. The people that answer the counter, the calls that walk in and stuff, hell, even the janitor. With the state of mind of what's going on in America now, I think we need those for everybody in law enforcement. And I don't even know if code enforcement's got them yet. But if they don't, they should have them too, because they make these calls to people's homes and stuff. And I'll tell you, it's a violent world out there. You just don't know what's going to happen tomorrow or the next second. So yeah, just clarification on what the program is, how they work it, and is this going to be across the board for people that maybe work for the police department or even the fire department? If they work for them, if they feel that their job is in danger, that they have a right to have one, and the city will help them provide one, whether they're a clerk, like I said, the janitor, or anybody that works in the police department. All right, thank you.
Well, to answer your questions, Mr. Yeakley, the grant's been in place for at least 15 years that I know of, and the reimbursement goes back to the city. The officers do not have to pay for them, and they're not reimbursed. It goes back to the city, 50%. And to answer your other question, yes, code enforcement does have bulletproof vests. And to my knowledge, no other non-sworn or civilian staff has used this grant to purchase vests.
I mean, evidently, there's probably some people that work for the police department and they're going in and out or something. I don't know what their duties are, but and maybe they don't have a vest. Is there a requirement for a position that, patrol officer, a certain title that you have to have a vest and other people don't? Or is it across the board requirement for everyone to have a vest?
It's not a requirement for everybody in the police department, professional SWAF, to have a vest. If you're in a patrol function or you're doing something in a tactical means, it is a requirement that you wear a bulletproof vest when you leave the building.
Do you see that there's some safety issues with the people coming in off the street and the personnel there that might not have protection?
Well, if we had the money, I would offer bulletproof vests for everybody that walks in and out of the building. It's just not feasible and not sustainable.
That's terrible. Does law enforcement have vests now?
Code enforcement does have vests.
Okay. So this money comes from, again, probably what we already know, general fund, right?
The money spent for the original
Yeah.
vest comes from general fund and it's reimbursed back to the general fund.
Well, I think we should address the city council on this issue and try to, here we go with programs and everything, just endless. We need to secure something where we can gather money so we can make sure that everybody in those strategic jobs have vests, whether, your opinions are great, but as a civilian, maybe I watch too much news, but all the stuff that goes on in all these different cities, I would like to see pretty much a requirement that anybody that works for the police department has a vest or one that's available to them. So the city council would take it up another time, but I think they should look at that because it seems like the world's getting violent more each day. So thank you.
Thank you. If we get a motion to pass number 6.
So moved.
Second.
We get a roll call?
Councilmember Rhino,
Yes.
Councilmember Silvera,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Condit,
Aye.
and Mayor Lopez.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0.
Moving on to item number 7. Resolution number 2021-60, approving extending a contract for graffiti removal services with affordable custom painting for a term of 2 years at a rate of $68 per hour, not to exceed $50,000 annually, without prior council approval, and authorize the city manager to execute the contract.
Thank you, Mayor. City Manager, if you could just go into the background of this and the purpose and the process that happens to remove graffiti throughout the city.
So we have a contract with Affordable Custom Painting that we've had for a number of years. The contractor would go around in rights of way and remove graffiti. One of the limitations that we found over the last year or so was that some of our park sites, bathrooms, some tables and chairs in the parks were being graffitied. So we moved the restriction, and now Affordable Custom Painting can go into the parks in addition to the right of way to paint over graffiti. The rate that is shown here on your item this evening is the same rate. There has been no adjustment, and it's the same time frame, which is a 2-year contract.
And what's the process for citizens to make a report?
I'll pass that one to Chief Collins.
They can make a report through government outreach via mobile devices, city web pages, things of that nature.
Thank you, Chief.
You're welcome.
And just to add to that, I'm just curious, Tom, we are keeping track of before and after photos of the graffiti and stuff like that, correct?
Yes, we set up the contractor with an iPad so that they can take before pictures and then after pictures as a record of the work that has been completed.
Thank you. Any more questions? Vice Mayor?
Move to approve.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Rhino, Councilmember Silvera,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Condit,
Aye.
and Mayor Lopez.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0.
Moving on to item number 9. Resolution number 2021-62, approving a 180-day extension for professional redevelopment and economic development consulting services to Stephen L. Hallam, and authorizing the city manager to execute the amendment number 6 for these services.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Westbrook, what else can we use the funds that we pay Mr. Hallam for? Could that be used for CDRAB, the downtown area, to maybe improve blight? Maybe some extra workers down there? Could it be used for that?
I don't believe so. I don't believe the bond proceeds can be used in that manner. So Mr. Hallam's contract is for the wind down of the redevelopment agency, so those funds pay for that.
And those funds, redevelopment for any economic development opportunity in the city?
So we currently have Mr. Hallam under contract per council direction at the budget workshop. You suggested that we included in the upcoming budget a full-time position for redevelopment and economic development manager. So we've done that. So Mr. Hallam's contract is just to pay for the wind down of the redevelopment agency, in addition to securing leads and business retention for folks within our community, existing businesses.
So I just want to be clear that those funds can be used for other purposes other than salary for economic development folks, correct?
For the purposes of economic development, yes.
Well, Council, this is just something I can't support. I think there's other avenues that would be more effective for economic development in Ceres rather than extending Mr. Hallam's contract. Thank you.
One of the reasons to put this in, because it looked like the budget that included the full-time position wasn't going to be considered at the June 14th meeting. So economic development, generally, the city manager plays a little bit of role in that, in addition to the economic development manager. in addition to the Director of Community Development. So two of those positions are vacant and one doesn't yet exist. So that falls to me.
So if this does not pass, then we're talking that you would be the one who would step in?
Then I would fill in to the best of my abilities until the budget was approved and a full-time position was recruited and hired.
If the budget was approved, we would have been moving forward to hire somebody in full-time?
Yes.
Thank you.
So what you're saying, this, approving this will get us to the point, it looks like it'll get us to the point where we can hire full-time.
We believe that the 180-day extension would get us to the point where we'd have a full-time person employed with the city.
Move to approve.
Second.
Get a roll call?
Councilmember Rhino,
Yes.
Councilmember Silvera,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Condit,
Nay.
and Mayor Lopez.
Yes.
Motion passes 3-1.
Number 10, second reading and final adoption of the ordinance 2021-1066, an ordinance to consider amending in its entirety chapters 1 and 2 of Title 6, Health and Sanitation of Ceres Municipal Code, which includes the addition of the following sections.
Thank you, Mayor. Director Damus, what is the overall cost from the state mandate? How many millions of dollars for rate increases for the city to go get new toters, enforcement? Is there an estimation on the cost?
Final cost right now looks like it's just over $1 million a year. And that's for, one is to provide the infrastructure, the toters, as well as the vehicles and the equipment to perform the disposal. And then ongoing maintenance after that, replacement of cans, replacement of vehicles, those type of activities.
This is going to be $1 million annually on top of what we currently have for
Correct.
no sunset in there.
No.
And no funding from the state to offset any costs.
At this time for the organics program itself, the way that the Assembly Bill's 1383 is, no. The CalRecycle offers grant opportunities for other programs, just not for this one, at least not today. That's not to say that, in a few years there won't be opportunities, but for now, no.
And the illegal disposal and illegal dumping and littering, three different, legal definitions there, three different fines, correct?
One fine.
One fine?
Correct. So there's, correct. For any illegal activities, it's one fine structure.
So, but littering is $1,000. And then the illegal dumping is $250.
So
I know you're not in charge of littering. You're not the litter police.
correct. So a lot of those that you're referring to, some of those fall under the penal code that PD does,
Yes, sir.
as well as then the what's in this ordinance update is a structure to allow Public Works to administer warnings, education outreach, and warnings and/or citations should they need be for illegal dumping, grass clippings, and those type of activities, as well as contamination type of garbage cans, those type of activities.
So Public Works is going to be in charge of enforcement.
For those activities, yes.
Those activities. Code enforcement involved?
They can be.
It can be.
But I think that we can all agree that code enforcement has their hands full.
Thank you. Thank you for your clarification.
You're welcome.
I have a quick question. For the illegal dumping in particular, it's the same fee for everything as well as that? For the illegal dumping, it's the same fee, $250?
The fine.
Fine, I meant to say fine, yes.
Yeah, the fine structure is a tiered structure. So that if we were to, let's say we were to catch an individual who was illegally putting grass clippings out, we would give them a warning and try to educate. We would do that a few times. If we couldn't get through, we would start a fine structure that starts at $25 and increases from there. That activity is the same on the illegal dumping if we were to catch somebody.
Okay. get them. Is anybody else? There's
There
actually
is a
one.
hand raised.
We have somebody in public who would like to speak on this matter.
When we get the third waste wheeler, once it's picked up, what's its trail of disposal?
Sorry, I can't hear you. Can you put the microphone?
What is its trail of disposal? Where does it go from when they pick it up, put it in the truck?
Jeremy?
So there's a few options. The third waste wheeler, well, there's options for all of them. So the third waste wheeler that we're proposing is for the organics program. And that predominantly will be taken out to the Jennings Road facility. And then there's a few other options there as well. There's no designated spot today simply because there's contracts that have to be filled. It's similar to garbage. Right now, the garbage is, we're under contract with Stanislaus County and a JPA to send garbage out to the burner. If the contracts are full for that time period, then we have to take garbage to the landfill. Very similar.
There is no reduction of 50% reduction waste.
There will be a 50% reduction in waste.
If it goes to the landfill.
Organics will not be going to landfill. Garbage will.
And again, where does it go?
The organics will be taken, a lot of it will be taken to the Jennings Road facility, which is all organics.
Which is, what is it?
Jennings Road facility. It's out for the city of Modesto.
Is it a composting? My other question is the California Public Contract Code sections 20161 and 20162 mandates that California Public Works be competitively bid for projects over $5,000. Bertolotti doesn't have a compost pile or the organic sorter. So we're giving him all this money for what?
If I could, the garbage is not considered a public works.
It's what?
When it's contracted, it's not considered a public works project. So it does,
But
those
the,
sections don't apply.
The SB 1383 requires the city to take it to have a contract with an approved composting facility and the one that's got the sorter in it, like Jilton has. That's mandated by SB 1383.
Correct.
So we're going to get the $10,000 a day fines because of that contract. The city's not in compliance.
The municipal code update tonight meets the mandates put forth by Cal Recycle. So the contract that Bertolotti will administer follows the guidelines tonight set forth for the municipal code update.
But we're not reducing the our waste by 50% with the organic waste.
We're not today, no, we're not. In January, when we put the third can out, we'll begin to go that direction.
But it mandates that you go to the city goes to competitive bids with an approved facility that has a composting and a sorter like Jilton has.
I'm not following you. I'm not. So the garbage service project or program with Bertolotti does not fall under the Public Works contracting law.
It's over $5,000.
But it doesn't fall under the Public Works contracting law. It's a professional service.
It's a what?
Professional service.
It's a garbage service that we're paying for.
Correct.
Then it needs to be bid out.
That's not correct. It's not a public works project that needs to be bid out.
Isn't Public Works in charge of it?
If they were in charge of it, like the city of Los Angeles, potentially, but we're not. We contracted out, and it's not a. It's simply not. That first definition does not apply.
You guys issue fines and collect the fines, but you don't do anything with the reduction of the waste.
We're not today, no. We don't have the infrastructure in place to meet those mandates today.
And
In January, when we begin pushing out the third can as well as the equipment to pick up the organics, we will.
and that was supposed to be in compliance by 2020, right?
Correct.
Um, Now, is there a way that I can get a copy of the costs and expenses associated with the third waste wheeler?
Sure.
That itemizes it out.
Yes.
Now, in the end, we're financing Bertolotti that has 6 franchises and a revenue of $20 million. Why do we have to pay for that?
We're paying for service.
No, we're paying. Who owns that stuff? Who owns those new garbage trucks? Who owns those toters?
Bertolotti will own it. We're under a contract that's perpetual, so it's a 7-year contract. It's for 7 years. And at any time, if the city council or Bertolotti themselves don't want to initiate a stop, it's 7 years from the date of that stop.
But we're financing Bertolotti too.
We're paying for equipment.
And we're financing it. And it belongs to them.
It's very similar to any other contract or project that we do.
Who gets the depreciation and tax deductions from it?
Bertolotti.
They're not paying for it.
Sir, your time is up.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Miss Councilmember Rhino?
I couldn't hear what he said about the Senate Bill 13. I couldn't understand
1383,
him.
SB 1383.
SB
1383.
1383. And it sounds like we don't meet that requirement, but we meet the requirement for Cal Recycle.
Correct.
So I guess I'm confused that if we're meeting the requirement of Cal Recycle, we don't have to meet the requirement of the Senate bill?
No, we're not today meeting the requirement for Cal Recycle. The
No,
organics.
I know that, but what I'm saying is the Senate bill he was talking about, even with our 3-can system that we're going to, which will satisfy Cal Recycle, it will not address what the requirement is of the SB bill.
No, it
correct?
will.
It will.
Yeah. Tonight's update of the Muni Code, as well as the contract and the agreement, the new agreement coming forth with Bertolotti. In January, when we start the 3rd-can system, we will meet the Cal Recycle mandates.
And
Okay.
the SB mandates.
Yeah, the
And
Senate
that's
Bill
the
13.
SB. Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Good evening, council members. It's been a topic of great concern for a lot of citizens. Public Works Director Jeremy has answered a lot of my questions that I had that I was going to ask tonight, but I still have some concern over the fact of the Cal Recyclable staff, this Kara Morgan, who was quoted in the Modesto Bee, saying that state laws do not require that cities find their residents for the garbage can contamination. Most of the other things that are in line to take effect with this, I think are probably some good things. But finding somebody for putting their trash in the wrong can might not be the best approach. And the state, at this particular point, Cal Recycle, says that we don't have to. So I really do need, for my own benefit, maybe some of the other citizens out there, one person saying one thing, another person saying another. That being the city saying one thing, staff, and the state of California being the article in the paper. I don't know which is correct. I don't doubt that either is maybe being truthful, but where is the truth? So someone needs to be able to explain that. And that's why I sent the note to you folks. Say maybe you could get this person here from Cal Recycle, come stand in the room and say, hey, you don't have to do this, and this is the reason why. Or yes, you do. This is the reason why. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This is to probably Jeremy. You're talking to a gentleman just a little while ago about fines for, and all of us here, fines for dumping on the street, grass, whatever. How is that going to be conducted is, whenever this comes about, if it does, are you going to uh, uh, sep- split the city up into grids and kind of take a little piece of the city at a time and find out who's doing what? And if they do have someone that's habitual dumper in the streets, whether it's garbage, mattresses, or whatever, how are they going to get to these people? Because a lot of people say, well, I didn't do that. And possibly maybe they didn't, but I think most of us live here in Syria knows that on their own street, it's probably some citizen that's down the street or around the corner. He just don't want it in front of his house. And I just like to know on that case, with people having saying that they don't know who did it or whatever, is Public Works or the Public Department, Works Department, are they going to solicit a few homes around there to let people know that they've been there and sooner or later we're going to catch you or whatever? I don't know, but how are you going to conduct this? Like I said, are you going to split it up into grids for garbage days or something?
Jeremy, if you can please clarify. I believe we talked about this last time, but if you can clarify again.
The staff will basically monitor the city very, very similar to the way that we do water conservation. If we see grass clippings in the street or if we see a water waster, we'll stop and talk to the resident, to the homeowner. By no means is this a means for the city to collect additional revenues for finding people.
Right.
We're not after, it's not after the money. We need to educate so that we can be in compliance with Cal Recycle to meet our diversion rates. That's what this is about. I really truly believe that once we get the third can in place, the grass clippings, a lot of the nuisance materials that are on the street, grass clippings, leaf piles, those type of things, will be put in that can because there will be a place for them to go. Right now, there's not. And right now we're struggling with a lot of residents where, between Bertolotti and city staff, we've handed out over 100 notices this month alone. We're getting phone calls from the residents that we're handing those notices out because what do? Well, it's an education. It's what we have to do to start knocking on doors. Now, to kind of answer John's question is just that Cal Recycle by no means has said from any shape or form that the city has to fine anybody. What Cal Recycle has said that as part of Assembly Bill 1383, there will be language in your municipal code for enforcement. Okay, so the action for us for enforcement is if we continue to hand out warnings for persons doing the same thing over and over, grass clippings, at some point, we have to move to the next step. There's where the fine structure comes in place.
And your structure starts at $25?
Correct. And that will be after multiple conversations, multiple notices, warnings issued. I mean, it's not just going to be the first one. And there's going to be a grace period of 6 months to a year before we do anything with residents. We've got to get out there and we've got to educate.
Yeah, I think most people in Sirius, they know the difference between the street and their garbage can, and the other people would rather put it in the street than the garbage can. And this extra one is going to be quite a feat to see what happens, because you're trying to teach somebody that's been habitual throwing trimmings or whatever in the street every week, or how often they do their yard work. But we see it all the time, and the same with the trash part with there's one somewhere around here, there's a mattress out in the street. I'm thinking, wow, it's been there for about a week. How come the city hasn't done anything? And it's close to here, and I'm thinking something's wrong. But okay, thank you for your answer.
Councilmember Rhino.
What happens when a few meetings ago, Lee Brandt brought up the fact that one of his neighbors is stuffing his garbage can every week? So what happens when they continue to do that? he's getting notices, and he's telling the city, hey, it's not me, I'm not the one that's doing it, and he's gonna get fined, but he's not, how do you deal with that?
First off, is we will find Mr. Brandt in this case for that purpose. We're not going to find anybody that we don't have a direct correlation as to the offender. You know, I mean, if we don't know you overfilled Lee's can, or Lee doesn't come out and tell us you overfilled his can, we're not going to go after anybody in that case. It's more of a knock on everybody's doors and try to educate a little bit, and hopefully it stops. Secondly, it's the only time we're ever really going to stop and talk about anybody's actual garbage can is if the lid is at about a 80 to a 90-degree angle open because it's so full. You know, a lot of the litter and trash that's on the street is because these cans are so full, the lids are open, and when the packers come to pick them up, it has a tendency to fly out. So again, with the third can, this gives the residents the option. Sorry about that. This gives the residents the option to separate out their garbage a little bit more and or keep the lids closed.
Okay, I would still have a concern though, that if that same neighbor is stuffing your can and the lid is staying up, that if my neighbor was doing it to me, I have cameras, but maybe other people don't. And then I'm gonna start getting warnings and fines.
You wouldn't get the warning if you could tell me that your neighbor was doing it and you could show me that. I'd be knocking on the neighbor's door.
All right, thank you.
It's similar in the municipal code to water, for example. If your water got shut off for non-payment, you can't go to the neighbor next door and get water connected to your house from them. Same with garbage. You can't move your garbage from you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, I understand. I'm just, and I don't have a problem generally with someone being fined after they've been warned and warned, because you have to have some measure to go after them if a warning isn't working. But again, I'm thinking of someone like B, who has the neighbor who keeps dumping his garbage, how he can prove it isn't him.
Correct.
Thank you.
And just to add to that, do we have different sizes for these garbage cans? Can somebody upgrade to a larger can size?
So the third can that's being delivered is the largest can, and that's a 90-gallon can. At the end of the day, there's a variation of sizes out there, and as we start replacing the older cans that are starting to fail, we'll replace them with 90s as well. There are some smaller ones out there, but the organics can that's going out will be a 90-gallon can.
Thank you.
That leads to my question. Is this a mandate? Is everybody required to accept this third waste wheeler?
Yes.
Okay, and so in regards to a mandate expense, is there any kind of compensation for senior citizens who may not be able to afford that on a fixed income?
No, not at this time.
No. Okay, and so you want to educate people who, one, you're in a poverty-stricken environment about composting organic material, who are on a fixed income and maybe not even use this waste wheeler.
Correct.
I think if we got to that point, we would have to have that discussion, because I don't think anybody on the council would go down that road.
Another question for you, Jeremy. I believe in a flyer in the past, I don't know if it's in there presently, for the garbage requirements and stuff. If I understand it right, Bertolotti said in one of these pamphlets sometime back, whether it's year 10, that they would not pick up cans that are, the lids are elevated, and we still see abundance of that, and you're correct. I've seen it in my own street, the neighbor and stuff. There are things like maybe not 90, but it's pretty close to it. And it's like every week, and it gets even worse if they have a little get together or something. You know, in the past, people were smart enough to take a garbage bag, put it there, and put it away from where people can't see it, and then put it in there the following week. But am I understanding that Bertolotti's rule of picking up garbage, the lids have to be closed? And why are they still picking them up?
For the most part, they have to be closed, and they're not. There's been several notices been given to us where they just passed over cans.
How does that happen? Is it the driver that marks it down?
Correct. And we hang a tag on the door.
Oh, okay. Evidently that was the neighbor next door. I was wondering about that because I thought I'd read that a long time ago that the lid has to be closed. But then there's some, I assume some drivers like there are with the guys that do the trees and stuff like, or the forklift thing, you know, he was upset because, you know, he's picking up the grass that's being thrown in the street all the time. So you're not supposed to do that. And he goes, well, if I don't do it, then it looks bad. And I said, well, you're not getting a point across to the citizen that they can't do that. You know, and he goes, well, if I don't do it, then it's going to be a mess. And he goes, and at the same time, I'll lose my job. He says, you're trying to get me to lose my job. I said, no, I'm not trying to get you to lose your job. I'm trying to get you to educate the people that live here.
And that's not the case. This has nothing to do with the drivers and staff. This is directly between.
No,
you
that's
know,
Bertolotti. Yeah.
Yeah, this is between
You
Steve,
guys have communication with them.
Steve at Bertolotti and myself.
Yeah.
And we have monthly meetings to discuss all of these concerns.
Yeah. Too bad you can't take some of those people from those homes that are abusing things and put them in a room and let you guys fire at them with all the different things. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Yeakley. Councilmember Rhino?
Do, Mr. Damas, do other utilities have low-income payments for their utilities, say TID or MID?
You know, I haven't looked into what TID does. I know on the city municipalities, it's against our Prop 218s to have a low income rate because it has to be subsidized. So if you were to have a low income rate, you would have to subsidize it from the general fund.
All right.
Or use the fine money potentially, but we don't want to fine, so that, but legally, that's what you could do as well.
All right, thank you.
I have one last question. The fines that are in place now for illegal dumping, John Q said it, if there was this stuff in the street, then are moved out. Those are generally taken care of by code enforcement and fines are upwards of $1,000. Under your new system, that still be in place because a $250 fine is not adequate for the garbage some of these people put in our street.
And that's correct.
That would still stay in place.
Correct. Yeah, we're not changing anything that's in existence as it is today with penal code. Correct.
Anybody else in the public who would like to speak? I know Mr. Osgood has been waiting patiently. Thank you, Mr. Osgood, for waiting.
Mr. Osgood, I'll ask to unmute your mic.
Okay, everybody can hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right, here's my concern. I once said at the beginning of this garbage tank, our trash is incinerated. Here we are, how long later? Month and a half, 2 months, and now Public Works Director is telling us, our garbage under contract's burnt. But we've allowed the series courier, we've allowed people to disrespect me because we haven't addressed the facts until tonight. Not only that, my question is, we've been told tonight that there's about $1 million a year fee to maintain the toters and the vehicles. So who owns the toters? Bertolotti owns the toters and Bertolotti owns the trucks. Why are we being told that it costs us $1 million to maintain Bertolotti's equipment? I would like to know that, because if there's a program to get my Class 8 truck and trailer on a city maintenance program, please point me in that direction. While my bills aren't quite $1 million, I would have no problem accepting a check from the citizens of Ceres to pay my business expenses. Secondly, we're chastising a gentleman in the chambers tonight when he asks why this hasn't been put out to bid. It's not our responsibility to prop up Bertolotti. It should have went out for competitive bid. Anytime the city contracts for anything, it should go to competitive bid, regardless of what type of contractual situation it is, regardless of how we feel about the management or staff at the company that we are allowing to be a municipality. The only municipalities that should happen without contract are things that we provide as a city to ourselves. Police, fire, water, sewer. Now the garbage is out the contract. We don't ask anyone else to put a price in. We have closed door meetings. We don't share information right away. Like hey, we're not going to reduce our garbage footprint because we're under contract to incinerate our garbage. John Osgood said that day number 2 of this discussion, and no one backed it up. No one knows facts. We're all going off of shoestring ideas of what's going on or what our responsibilities are. We can change the municipal code a year ago and spend $80,000 to $100,000 doing that, and we're not going to look at the municipal code and make a citizens review committee for that or this or that. But it seems every time we come to the city council meeting, what are we doing? We're addressing this part of the code or that part of the code, another part of the code. No citizen involvement, and we don't put anything out to competitive bid. That's disrespectful to the citizen. It's not within the intent of the founding of our representative style government. And I have already addressed that representative style government this evening. We got to get in shape, people. We got to stop being disrespectful and stop allowing disrespect to happen. When a member of the community says, this is what we do with our garbage, and there's no way to reduce that because we're already turning it to ash. To acknowledge that a month and a half, 2 months later, you disrespected me, Director. You should have day one said something about incinerating our trash. You allowed the newspaper to condemn me because you weren't honorable enough to stand up that night and say, he's right. Now, put the dang thing out to bid. Let's stop playing around with how we're going to do things. Let's stop, basically badmouth the guy in the chambers tonight because, well, no, he don't quite understand it the way you understand it. I don't know where to go. I sit down with Mr. Hallinan all the time and talk to him about language and verbiage and law. And I'm probably one of very few that get it. But when I'm accurate, don't allow me to be disrespected. And let's have that legitimate conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Osgood. Looks like we do have one more person on Zoom that would like to speak.
Yes, next hand raised is Nick Maynard. I will unmute your mic. Your mic is unmuted.
Thank you. Yeah, so I was wondering about this third can. It's a organics can that's going to be delivered at some point. What type of trash goes in that? Just like lawn? It's like a yard can for like lawn clippings and that's all. Okay, so all right. So if you don't use that can you tell Bertolotti to not drop it off at your house?
No, every household produces organic waste. That's part of the education and outreach that we'll be pushing forward here in the next month or two.
Right, but I pay a landscaper $140 to take my organic waste with him when he leaves.
And that's a part of it. There's food waste, there's soiled boxes, there's cardboard, there's several parts of the organics program that we need to educate.
Oh, so gotcha. So instead of putting my cardboard into the blue bin, which is now the recycle bin, I'd be putting that into the organics bin.
Correct.
Okay, gotcha. Just wanted to make sure it wasn't just for yard waste because like I said, I have a landscaper that takes that with them, and so I wouldn't have any use if it was just for that. I just wanted to clarify. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Do we have any emails?
No, Mayor.
Okay. Can we get a motion to approve?
I have a comment first before a motion.
Go ahead.
This has been in the works for, I guess, a year and a half, 2 years. And there's a lot of moving parts to this and a lot of staff time and Bertolotti time and effort that that we only have 6 months now to make it happen. So I think we're at the point now where we appreciate everybody's input, their concern if they have it, but we need to do this, and we need to move this forward so the staff can do their business and do their work to make sure we're on time in January, because who knows what would happen with the state if we weren't. So I move to approve ordinance 2021-1066.
Second. Get a roll call.
Councilmember Rhino,
Yes.
Councilmember Silvera,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Condit,
Nay.
and Mayor Lopez.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-1.
I believe that is it. There is no unfinished business. We are moving on to public hearing. Public hearing to consider resolution number 2021-65, establishing the annual assessment levy for the 2021-22 FY on the business in the downtown area defined in the Ceres Downtown Revitalization Area Board, CDRAB, annual report for the activities and programs of the Ceres Downtown Revitalization Area Board for FY 2021-22 Hallam. I believe there is a staff report on this, correct?
Yes, there is, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. This is Steve Hallam. I am serving as the Economic and Redevelopment and Economic Development Manager for the City of Ceres. The item before you this evening is a request to consider assessing a levy on all businesses located in the Ceres Downtown Revitalization Area for fiscal year 2021 to 22. This item by state law requires a public hearing, and therefore the public hearing is being held tonight. The revitalization area was formed in 1989 by the downtown business owners themselves as part of a parking and business improvement district. Its purpose was to generate revenue to assist in the maintenance, upkeep, and revitalization efforts of the downtown. Since the area's origination, an assessment has been levied annually by the City Council on all businesses within the boundaries of the revitalization area. The funds raised from this annual assessment are restricted in their purpose. They must be used to pay for projects and activities that promote and positively contribute to the enhancement of the downtown commercial district. Of note, the proposed levy has not changed since its adoption originally in 1989. Generally, the assessment is $10 to $25 per month on all businesses based on gross receipts. For this next fiscal year, this assessment is expected to raise approximately $12,750 for direct district activities. As was identified in the annual report for next fiscal year budget and approved by the City Council on June 14th, 2021, these funds, including the budget reserve funds, will pay for electricity for the downtown street lighting program, holiday lighting, rotation of seasonal overhead banners, and continued funding for a matching grant element for the design assistance element of the downtown facade improvement program, as well as 2 planned projects consisting of a wayfinding sign program and a look at possible downtown development incentive programs. Once again, staff is not proposing any increase in the annual rate of assessment for this next fiscal year. This evening, the City Council is asked to take the following 2 actions. First, open the public hearing for the purpose of taking testimony by anyone who wishes to speak on this subject. And 2, consider staff recommendation to adopt the proposed resolution 2021-65, which will establish and assess a levy on all businesses located in the Ceres Downtown Revitalization Area for fiscal year 21-22. I'm certainly available to answer any questions that the City Council may have, and thank you for your time.
Does the council have any questions? The public hearing is now open. If there's anyone in the chambers or attending through Zoom that would like to comment on this item. We have one
We have
person.
one hand raised in Zoom. Osgood, Mr. Osgood, I'll ask to unmute your mic.
Do we have a desire to increase the number of businesses in the downtown area? Because if we do, Well, if we do, why would we ask those businesses continually to levy fees against themselves that businesses outside of that district don't necessarily incur? It seems counterproductive to me that they pay for their own street lighting, where Walmart, we would subsidize the lights along Mitchell or Service for their complex. It seems to me like changing the sidewalks every 15 to 20 years down there, or putting up new arbors across the sidewalks and streets, changing out pavers for this brick or that brick. Look, these things are costing the business owners in that area additional funds that we could just locate a business, say in the Richland Shopping Center, and not have to incur. I don't understand why we do that. Continue to do that. At one time, the businesses may have wanted that, but some of these street lightings and changing the banners and the other items, seasonal items that the gentleman spoke of, some of those people doing those jobs are already being paid out of the general fund. So I don't know what they're paying for their own street lights. I guess I don't understand. I guess I'm looking for clarification.
Mr. Mayor, would you like me to respond to that?
Sure.
Yeah, there's a couple of false facts that Mr. Osgood mentioned. The businesses were not charged for the downtown physical streetscape improvements. That was funded by the city through the final bond issue on the redevelopment funds of 2016. The fact of the matter is, it was the businesses themselves that in 1989 were looking at a way to organize as a neighborhood commercial district that many similar business owners in freestanding centers participate with through their lease structures for special event, promotional signing, special activities that take place in those shopping centers. So in '89, it was the businesses that approached the city at creating a parking and business improvement district as a mechanism to organize as almost like a business district. They voted that in themselves. They defined through the '89 Act the types of things they would fund, and it was their mechanism to give themselves a benefit of a district among individual owned businesses.
Thank you.
Okay, am I still unmuted?
You can go ahead and speak, Mr. Osgood.
Yeah, so I mean, I'd like to see more businesses downtown, and a lot of the businesses that were there at the time of that vote, we know are no longer there. Should we not put that back to a vote of the businesses that are there? If that's going to be the case, that we continue this assessment, should we not look at maybe, adjusting the assessment if someone doesn't want to be in that assessment district, but would like to locate downtown? I'm just looking for, have we investigated? Is that still a desire of those businesses? Or is this just something that we're going to say the city council gets to decide? Because if we want business down there, then we have to be business friendly. And my concern, like you all know, is that we are friendly to business in our community. So just kind of contemplate that before you make a decision. It would be my recommendation, because we desire businesses downtown. And if that would prohibit someone from deciding to locate downtown, then I would be against it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Osgood. Is there any more comments?
There is another hand raised in Zoom. Randy Meyer, Ms. Meyer, I'll unmute your mic. Your mic is unmuted. Randy.
Brandy, your mic has been unmuted. Do you wish to speak?
Very well.
You sound like you're far away from.
Can you hear me okay? Is that better?
It's a little low, but go ahead.
Okay, sorry, it's my computer. I just wanted to agree with Mr. Osgood with downtown. I just don't believe that right now, after coming out of a pandemic, would be the best time to raise anything for the downtown businesses. As a downtown business owner, I have an empty office that I'm trying to lease out, and I'm having a hard time finding someone to come in and lease that office. I think that right now is just not the right time to add any new levies or additional fees to the downtown businesses. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, it looks like there's no more comments. We're going to go ahead and move on to the council and discussion for vote. So the public hearing is now closed. Ms. Council Member, if you can go ahead and.
For clarification, Mr. Hallam, this is not in addition to what the downtown merchants are already paying, correct? It's the same rate that they've been paying since inception?
That is correct, Councilwoman Rhino.
And also, every single business owner in the area that's bounded by the CDRAB boundaries, they receive notification at least twice about the proposed hearing, if not maybe even more, because it goes first to Planning Commission and they say that they're going to have a hearing, and then there's the actual hearing. Then we had one last meeting and now we have the public hearing now, but yet all of those notices that have gone out, you've never received any comment, rather negative or positive, from any of the downtown merchants. Is that correct?
That's correct, Councilwoman Rhino. You got it.
Thank you.
Council? Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. I would just like to point out this is an issue that I have spent some time on. I actually advocated to expand the boundaries to include all of 4th Street. High Fashion and Feet and Facials have had interest in the past of being members of this. To do that, we would have to hold a vote for the whole area, and that would be either stay or go. For that reason, I'm not going to support this until we do try to have some forward thinking of either expanding or doing something a little different downtown. Thank you.
Mr. Westbrook, I got a question for you. Would it hurt the city if we were to have further discussions on not only just expanding, but trying to support some of these businesses? If we do expand, could we possibly cut some of those fees? We have more participants.
If we open up the boundaries, it's subject to a vote again. Of those boundaries, the businesses may say they don't want to be a part of it, and then the assessment would go away.
Okay.
And then any of the improvements that we do downtown would fall to the city's general fund.
Is there open for discussion so that we can do more downtown besides just passing this resolution?
We're just limited by the funds that are created in the assessment.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, one of the items that we included in this year's budget, the Planning Commission acts as the board for the downtown revitalization area because the board members lacked interest in attending meetings. So the city council appointed the commission. Last year, year before last, the Planning Commission was looking at opportunities to do the very thing you're talking about, maybe look at some type of business incentive program. So there was a pretty healthy budget reserve in the fund. So the Planning Commission recommended and the council approved the $10,000 set aside in the budget for some type of, it hasn't been defined yet, but it's a downtown business incentive program. And one of the examples that people have talked about is lessening building permit fees for individual business improvements, things of that manner with the use of that funding. That is out there still pending as a program to look at in this fiscal year.
Is that something that you said that was passed by the city council or by the Planning Commission?
by both. It was recommended by the Planning Commission to put into the budget, the City Council, and approval of the annual report 2 weeks ago essentially included that in the proposed budget for next year.
Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
City Manager, the general fund is supplementing some of CDRAB, I believe $35,000 worth, correct?
Steve, is that the correct amount? Do you recall?
No, I don't think the general fund is subsidizing any of the CDRA activities. Last year, to pick up some of the landscaping costs, they were transferred into the some redevelopment unused funds. But no general fund contribution.
There was a budget deficit, correct? For CDRAB?
No, there's not.
No?
There's a balance.
So it's a balanced budget? Because I thought the last meeting 2 weeks ago, we discussed that they didn't raise enough funds and the general fund was supplementing $35,000.
The CDRAB has its own fund balance, which is supplementing the CDRAB.
So it's
not
from
general
their
fund.
savings account that they're balancing their budget, from their savings account, because their revenue were not $80,000, they were $12,000.
There were some reserves in CDRAB that are being utilized to balance their budget.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Would the council be opposed of if we could do something more if we were to pass this today with some of the COVID relief funds? We can discuss that in a future meeting.
Yeah, I'm open to that, but I believe we need to pass this now so we can continue to do the work down there that we're doing and what we want to do with future budgeted funds from wherever it comes from. That's a conversation for a different time, I think.
Because I don't want to leave these businesses hanging if they feel that they can't afford this, but maybe if they were to reap more benefits from this program, some more incentives, Ms. Meyer, I think that would hopefully help you out, because I feel that, it's just us passing this particular resolution only does what it says it does. But if we can do something more, I think we'll be headed in the right direction. Councilmember.
But again, Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
the businesses all have many opportunities to say they don't feel they're getting their money's worth. They think being overtaxed, and they're not coming forward ever.
Okay.
And if I remember right, Mr. Westbrook, we did have the downtown, the facade improvement program, and we only have one business or building owner down there that took advantage of it, or he did not take advantage of it.
I think one business owner took advantage of it for the facade design component, but not the actual construction component. It was
Oh.
just the design.
So we did have someone take advantage of that.
It's a good thing. Maybe some business owners weren't really in tune to what's going on, but it shouldn't stop us from trying to do more, even if we do pass this, is all I'm suggesting. Because I do want to support our small businesses and local downtown businesses. That downtown area has a lot of room to grow. I believe everybody on the city council would agree with that as well. Anybody else?
Move to approve resolution 2021-65.
Second,
Can you get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Rhino,
yes.
Councilmember Silvera,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Condit,
Nate,
and Mayor Lopez.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-1.
Okay, moving on to some new business. Resolution number 2021-66, adopting an interim budget for the city of Ceres for 2021-2020 official year, beginning July 1st, 2020, and ending September 30th, 2020. And resolution number 2021-67, adopting appropriation limitations for the official year 2021-2022.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. This is just a continuation. Last year, the city adopted an interim budget. The reason being last year was relative to CARES Act funding and not knowing the timing of the receipt of those funds. This year, when the budget was presented at your last meeting on June 14th, The council couldn't come to concurrence on the adoption of that budget. So the option was to bring back, again, a continuing resolution. So this evening, the continuing resolution would essentially take our current budget and advance that forward for a period of 90 days, which is about 25%. The exception is the capital improvement program, which will be funded 100%. The reason being is because those funds already exist in our water and sewer accounts, and we need to make sure that we can roll those over in their entirety so that we can start public works projects. So this evening, I'm available to answer any questions, but this is essentially a continuing resolution, which would take our budget through September 30th of 2021.
Is there anybody in the chambers has any questions? Anybody on Zoom? Council member, Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. City Manager, Fund 275, the Community Center, is that included in this budget? Reflected, meaning the $2 million deficit, is that reflected in our budget?
In the current budget that we're in, or the continuing resolution?
The continuing resolution.
It would be continued as an expense in the continuing resolution.
So that is reflected that we have a $2 million deficit in Fund 275, correct?
Yeah, the reality is there's a $2 million deficit. We're continuing the budget as it exists only for a period of 90 days. So yes, it's included.
Okay. And then I had a question on Fund 292, the Landscape and Lighting District. Is this adjusted annually? In the staff report policy issues, it mentioned we might need to go through a Prop 218 process.
So it's a flat rate that was adopted in 1997. New subdivisions from 97 on paid. However, we've seen that the service cost exceed the collection cost. So ultimately, if the city council wants to get to a point where the general fund does not have to supplement, then it would be necessary to do a Prop 218 for the landscape and lighting district at some future point. So this year, I think that in the proposed budget, that of balance about 200,000.
Thank you. Thank you. I have a question relating to the budget and the general plan. Does our city's general plan set any goals that the council would need to have to prioritize in the city's budget?
I do not know that off the top of my head.
Well, staff does use the general plan to support or oppose projects presented to the city, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay. Do you know if the city treasurer has reviewed the interim budget?
No, she is not.
She is not. Okay. That's all the questions I have at this time. Thank you.
Councilmember Rhino.
I have a question for Mrs. Diaz. This is a continuing resolution. So when you use the figures of 17,826,910, is that based on the approved budget of this past year, the one that we're just finishing up, or is it the numbers for the proposed budget?
That is 25% of the 2020-2021 budget, the current budget we're in.
The current year that we're in.
Yes.
So if we're basing that on, we'll call it the old budget, the budget that we're in now, then this question will be for the city manager. If we're continuing from that budget, then why in the resolution is there a line that the positions for fiscal year 21-22 are hereby approved? That's in next year's budget. That should not be included in a continuing budget, which is basically just to get us through until you can get the new budget approved.
So that could have been a typo, but essentially the positions that were included in the budget year that we're in are continuing. It doesn't include any new positions.
Okay, well, if you look at the resolution, it does include 20, 21, 22, and if you look at attachment 2, it includes the positions that were being requested for this next budget year.
All right, that must have been an oversight. We can fix that.
Because my understanding of a continuing budget is one that is pretty, kind of, I don't know what word I'm trying to use, kind of a bare bones kind of budget just to get you through is the way I see it. And then I also see where you would recommend in this resolution that the capital improvement projects budgeted fiscal year 2021, 2022 are exempt from the spending limit. Therefore, they would be included, that they could actually go forward, and they're in the 21, 22 budget. Which again, that's spending money in the new budget that we're working off of the old budget. I'm not talking about the ones that say that they're carried over from fiscal year 2020, 21. It says, in those projects budgeted in fiscal year 2021, 2022 are exempt from the spending limit. So that to me sounds like you could move forward in the next 3 months with capital improvement projects that were included in the proposed 21, 22 budget.
That's what it sounds like. We have projects that that need to be funded. So I guess the will of the council. Just
Okay,
awarded
well-
the $10 million tank project. 5 million of it was in last year's budget. 6 million is in the future budget. So if the budget's adopted prior to September 30th, then there wouldn't be an issue because that project hasn't even started construction yet. But we're allocating the funds in this budget year in that CIP project.
But again, if we're talking about proposed budget, who's to say that when that budget comes back in September, that the council doesn't start checking things off that they don't want included? And if you've included things in this continuing budget, well, then that's tying their hands in what they can say they don't want to move forward with.
In the CIP project or the overall, like the general fund budget?
Talking about the verbiage in here that says that they're exempt and that they can be funded. The ones that were in the 22 budget, which we aren't even adopting. We're still, now you want to work off of the 2020, 21 budget, which is a continuing budget. It's not adding things to it.
Vice Mayor?
I would agree with Councilwoman Rhino on that point. To circle back to the community center, is this budget balanced?
The budget that was presented to you, the continuing resolution has nothing to do with the balanced budget. The budget that was presented at the workshop in the general fund was $1.6 million, utilizing the reserves to balance the budget. That budget's not before the council this evening.
This is just an extension of last year's budget, to be clear,
Correct.
that 3 of us didn't vote on.
Well, and that wasn't a balanced budget last year. Last year we spent more than we brought in. So, correct? Yes.
Last year we saved, or this current year, we're projecting to save $1.5 million in the budget.
But we have that $2 million deficit. Correct.
The community center has an operating deficit of $2 million.
And that's reflected in the general fund.
Yes.
Looks like we have somebody on Zoom.
That person is John Osgood. Mr. Osgood, I'll ask to unmute your mic.
Okay, been trying to sit here, run this through my head. Did I hear Mr. Westbrook correctly answer Councilperson Rhino and say, well, we will have to correct that this documentation is not properly formatted?
We utilized last year's as a template. We simply have to correct one of the year and the approved position list, and it was my incorrect. I'm the one that made the mistake, Mr. Osgood, no one else.
I get that. But you and I've had conversations before where this stuff needs to be accurate when it goes out, right?
Correct.
So if we have something that's not accurate and not correct, how do we hold a vote on whether to proceed with this when the documentation supporting it is not accurate, not correct?
Simply staff can delegate to, or the council can delegate to staff to make the correction, and we will do so.
Okay, it would be my intent as a shareholder in the corporation that is Ceres, California, that before my board of directors or my city council's asked to affirm something or approve it, that the supporting documentation be in place and be accurate 100%. Asking someone to come back and fix something posthumously or after the fact is just wrong. We can't have an affirmative vote on something that's not properly formatted. That's my concern. I hope that others of you would feel the same way. It's not in the scope of how things should be done. It wouldn't happen in private business. It shouldn't happen in the city. We're supposed to run this thing as a business. That's a corporation, and it's high time we started treating things this way. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Osgood. Alan, can we make that correction today?
Absolutely. I have a comment, not really a question. And Mr. Osgood, we understand your opinion. We can easily make a resolution change and approval all at the same time. Happens every single day in this and in government. So for us to continue without a budget and hamstring our city staff without a budget would be irresponsible, in my opinion. We're simply extending our budget for 90 days that we currently have. For us, in my opinion, for us to do that without continuing these capital projects that are so necessary to our city would also be irresponsible. Those are infrastructure projects that have been hours and hours and hours and days of time or staff working on these projects to get them to this point. They're needed and necessary, and it would be irresponsible to stop those projects in the middle. That's my opinion. I'm ready to make a motion if we don't have any more comments.
It looks, go ahead, Mr. Osgood.
Can people still hear me or not?
Yes, we can still hear you. Go ahead, sir. Can you not hear us? Mr. Osgood, can you hear us? I think you might have muted. Did you?
No, his mic does not have a red line to it.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. The word opinion was used. I didn't speak an opinion. These are facts. The fact is the document is not is not correct. If we correct the document, then it's correct and we can vote on that. Regardless of how we do things, deputy or council member, it's neither here nor there. We need to start behaving professionally and accurately. We need to, when the agenda's written, or when the item comes up before us, it needs to be succinct. It needs to be precise. That's not an opinion. That's a fact. And to continue to belittle me with words like opinion and this is how we do it and we're going to do it anyways, or we're at the last minute, or we can't wait no more and we got to act. The fact is, that's a bad attitude to have and a bad position to put ourselves in. I'm not the guy holding things up. I'm not the council member. I'm not the one that's supposed to say, this isn't accurate and this needs to be fixed. That should be all of you up there, not John Osgood, not the citizen. So it's not an opinion, it's a fact that you are not producing adequate work for us as an employee or as a representative. Now, I've tried to be civil and I've tried to deal with you in a tone that you prefer, but we can get back to where I'm telling you things how I choose to tell you things, because the Supreme Court allows me to talk to you in any manner I want or to chastise you any way I want. The fact is, it has to be proper and it has to be precise, and we need to stop putting things off to the people till the last minute. I didn't hose the budget. I didn't hose everything else in the city. What I do and expect is for it to be properly handled and not to be disrespected when I ask for it to be properly handled, to point out facts. Facts are not opinions, and I have produced no opinion this evening. You need to learn the difference in the verbiage and the language. And if you can't do that, step down because you're not qualified. Have a good evening.
You have one more hand on.
Next person is Connie Vasquez. Ms. Vasquez, I'll ask to unmute your mic.
Good evening. I believe that we should go ahead and make those corrections, whatever they may be, and get that budget passed immediately. I agree with Councilman Silvera that, you know, we need to go forward. We can't delay this anymore. How long would it take to get this corrected? How many days? What are we looking at?
I believe we could do it today, right? We can correct.
Yeah, you're literally deleting a sentence from the resolution.
Amending it.
I just want to make sure that the council agrees with something like this, because I mean, I don't know how long we can wait until we pass another budget and pass the budget. Oh, I'm sorry. You know, Mr. Mayor, I know that you had your button. I'm so sorry.
Thank you,
I'm
Mayor.
sorry.
Well, I'm not willing to kick the can down the road. I really think the council should have the city manager bring back a budget with $1.6 million in cuts, so we can have a balanced budget, so we can be a city that says we have an actual balanced budget, not using funds from our reserve. So that's why I cannot support this at this time.
Thank you. Councilmember Rhino.
This shouldn't surprise any of you. You've been on this council now for 6 months. We've discussed the budget before. My stand since day one has been, and it continues to be, that we need to live within our means. I cannot run my family budget if I continue to spend more than I'm bringing in. I can't do that. And Mr. Westbrook knows that. He's been here long enough to know what my stand has been, and I don't think that's a surprise to him that I can't support it. He's heard me say it for many years.
And this is not the budget that has a structural deficit. This is a continuing resolution.
Yeah.
And I understand that, but I didn't vote for last year's budget either because it was not a balanced budget. Okay, so you're basing these numbers off of what was a structurally balanced budget last year.
You are correct.
Correct me if I'm wrong, now there's a reserve in that budget because it was a budget and budgets aren't exact science when you're writing them. And so at the end of this budget, we forecast $1.5 million in reserves, correct?
Yes, and last year's budget included additional CARES Act funding, which balanced the budget, but without the CARES Act funding, it would have had a structural deficit.
So if this doesn't, I don't know why I keep doing that. If this doesn't pass tonight, then what do? You just continue on like we're doing it anyway, right? Because you got to pay the bills.
Yes, we need to pay the bills.
My understanding, I thought we have to pass a budget law. Is that correct, or am I correct about that?
You don't have to pass a budget per se.
Uh-huh.
You pass budget so you have a framework to know.
Right, I just
what
want to
you're-
make sure that we're not in a position where we're not submitting our budget and we get fined or anything of that sort to the state. Just want to make sure, because we talked something like that last time. This is a waste of time, to be honest.
I'm going to move to approve Resolution 2021-66, adopting an interim budget for the city of Ceres from July 1st ending September 30th, 2021.
Second, roll call.
Councilmember Rhino,
No.
Councilmember Silvera,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Condit,
Nay.
and Mayor Lopez.
No.
Motion fails.
Good luck, city staff.
City manager, I have a question. Can the city council tonight recommend that you bring back a full budget with $1.6 million in cuts?
If that's the direction of the council, then yes.
Well, I'd love to make that motion. I move that the city council direct the city manager to bring back 21-22 budget with $1.6 million in cuts, so it is a balanced budget.
Second?
Get a roll call.
Councilmember Rhino,
Yes.
Councilmember Silvera,
No.
Vice Mayor Condit,
Aye.
and Mayor Lopez.
No.
Motion fails.
Well, I have a motion. I motion that we bring back this budget after we start talking about the COVID relief fund money that we're going to have, because that would help us in making our decisions.
Second.
Can I get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Rhino,
Yes.
Councilmember Silvera,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Condit,
Aye.
and Mayor Lopez.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0.
Okay. Moving on to council member referrals. Council members have any referrals at all?
Yes, Mayor, I do. I would like to refer Title 18, Chapter 39 of the Municipal Code, the Density Bonus Housing Program, for a future meeting. Also, I would like to refer the 3 vacancies on the Planning Commission for a July meeting.
And I'm sorry, Vice Mayor, what was the first one in regards to?
It was Title 18, Chapter 39 of the Municipal Code, the Density Bonus Housing Program.
I say yes. We don't necessarily have to take a vote, it's just kind of, yeah. You got a yes for me, for both. Council?
I don't support the planning commission appointments now. We have already decided on waiting until the special election, so I wouldn't be able to support that now.
Yes, on the
I
first.
would agree with that. You made a big production that we needed to wait until we had a fifth person. So we went round and round over that. I think we needed to stick with that, to have our fifth person.
And just for clarification, what about the first item that you brought up? Are we okay with that?
Don't support that either. Thank you.
Councilmember Rydell?
What, I guess I'd like to know what you plan to do, but you
Well,
just want to have a
the-
discussion about it?
Yeah, I would like to have a discussion on it. The density bonus housing program has changed statewide in recent years. And I think we should talk about if it's something that's good for our city.
I can support having a discussion about it.
Thank you.
Okay. I have a referral. It's more of information, Mr. Westbrook, and if the city council would be interested in getting some more information how we came up with the structure for the water rates, and possibly if we can review that structure in the future, so we can have that discussion, see if we can find ways to either help our citizens with these water rates. I know that we've actually reached out to the Harder's office in government funding, and he agreed that he can try to help us, and just more of an informational kind of discussion.
So the water rate moved in 2017?
City council?
Is that the same discussion that we had tonight about Prop 218 and that we couldn't do any kind of subsidy? Mr. Damas?
Correct. So if there were to be any subsidies given to water, wastewater, or garbage in this case, reduced rate for any demographic, that offset needs to come from a revenue source somewhere, whether it's general fund, like the city attorney says, could be fines, something of that nature.
What about a grant, if that would be possible? Or maybe state
I mean,
funds?
If there were money infused into it, yeah, we could look at it.
Okay, I mean, this is a great discussion to begin with. I wanted to get more information, clarification. But I mean, yeah, like I said, if this the council's direction to discuss further on this matter.
Yes, I would support that.
Sounds good.
I think that we can have a discussion, but as long as you realize that Prop 218 and our hands are tied, but
Right.
I think if Damas can do kind of an informational meeting and let us know, maybe because we do have new council members, it might be a good idea.
Thank you. Thank you, council. Appreciate that. Jeremy, sorry to put more on your plate, my friend. Okay, so let's move on to reports. I do have two reports. I'll begin. This Sunday, there was a first annual Bridging the Gap event hosted by Ground Up Productions, held at the Sirius Drive-In. Those involved were the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, providing education and resources to entrepreneurs, startups, and existing businesses. And if there's anybody who would like to get involved in these future events, please reach out to Ground Up Productions. Also, this Friday kicks off the Concerts in the Park series. I sat down with the Parks and Recreation team after months of planning. I'm happy to share that the City of Sirius is bringing back Concerts in the Park. And as you drive around town, you'll notice the banners at our parks, businesses, and high schools. If you have never attended before, traditionally families gather at Whitmore Park and bring chairs and blankets to enjoy the music. This is our city, and our culture is rooted in music and food. This event is growing, and this year is your opportunity to invite your friends and family to some free entertainment and purchase from our food vendors. I will be hosting just about every Friday, and we'll be bringing guests to jump on stage with me, including council members, if you guys would be willing to come out whenever you're available. Come enjoy some food, dance, enjoy the nights. They have been moved. I believe that we had it on Wednesdays or Tuesdays, and we moved Fridays. Show starts at 7 p.m. We recommend that you arrive 30 minutes before showtime. The lineup will be July 2nd, we have Goshawk's Instrumental Band. July 9th, we have Los Reales del Norte. July 16th, Big Valley Grace and Valley Christian Center. July 23rd, True South, and July 30th, MCW Band. For the food purchases on July 2nd, we'll have Azteca restaurant will be out there serving tacos, Mexican hot dogs and asada fries. July 9th, Carlos Tacos will be out there serving tacos and quesadillas. Also on July 16th, July 23rd, Azteca will also be out there selling tacos, Mexican hot dogs, and asada fries. And on July 30th, Captain Spanny will be out there barbecuing and selling hamburgers. Thank you. That is all the reports that I have. City Council?
Yes, Mayor. I'd like to read a message I received into the record. Good morning, Cooper. I've been thinking about this for a while and feel compelled to share it with you. We are sent the agenda in advance of our meetings. We are given the chance to meet with the city manager and whomever else needed to answer questions regarding anything on the agenda. I, along with several citizens of Ceres that have approached me regarding your in-meeting tactics of pulling items off of the consent calendar, asking open-ended questions, and then voting no on issues without any explanation or solution. This has happened too many times to count, and by doing so, you are handcuffing our city staff and creating hours of unnecessary work to try and figure out the direction that you may be going with any given matter. Almost all of this is routine city business, and some that has been happening for years that you undermine with your obvious alternate motives. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the same action what prohibited you from continuing on the Planning Commission. We owe it to the citizens of Ceres to use staff time wisely and to rule on what's best for the city, not with our own agendas. Please consider this moving forward and remember to use pre-meeting time wisely to get answers to your questions. It is what is needed and expected by our constituents. Sincerely, Brett. Now, I did not respond to this message, but I would like to respond now. I've never been a rubber stamp to approve city staff objectives, even when I was a planning commissioner. I've always tried to do what's best for the residents of Ceres. I choose to pull items and ask questions on items that are in the interest of District 4. We owe it to the citizens to be transparent and give the citizens every opportunity to have a better understanding about the business that is conducted on this dais. Now, as for agendas, I clearly stated my goals when I was a candidate for this office. And for those who don't know those goals, I'll happily share them now. Work to make Ceres the safest city in Stanislaus County, oppose taxpayers paying for our part-time city council's health insurance, work to reform the city budget and salary structure of city bureaucracy, hold regular office hours for District 4 residents, support only essential spending, support water rate decreases. I'm not a politician who tells voters that public safety is my top priority and then does not advocate for more police officers on the street. When we've heard the public, the citizens, again and again say we need to do more. I did not tell voters we need to reinstate full staffing for our code enforcement department that has only ever had 2 officers at most historically. Instead of giving voters a vague message or a misleading representation of city departments, I want the city to follow through on the goals we promised the citizens in our $1 million general plan. Goals like 1.3 officers per 1,000 residents, which would mean a 15 to 20 additional officers currently. Councilmember Silvera wants me to ask questions behind closed doors instead of at our public meeting, and complete transparency for all to see. Councilmember Silvera's approach to representing the residents of Ceres is contrary to everything I believe. Council members work for the people, not the city manager or city staff. Council members work for the people of Ceres. In fact, the citizens of Ceres take pretty good care of the council members with perks the city simply can't afford. Council member, if you have anything else to say to me about city business, please say it on the dais from now on. Thank you.
Anybody else? City manager?
Just run to remind everyone that City Hall will be closed on July 5th because the 4th of July falls on Sunday. The holiday is on Monday. And just remember to keep things safe and sane with your parties this 4th of July season. Illegal fireworks are a tremendous detriment to veterans, other folks that are sensitive to noise and to pets. So we want everybody to celebrate safely this holiday season.
Thank you. City Attorney,
No report, Mayor.
anybody from the department?
Thank you, Mayor. Just want to let everybody know that the fireworks campaign is underway and has been for some time. And we're doing our very best to answer those calls for service and do things in a way that might allow us to issue more citations this year. So we'll keep you posted as it goes along.
Thank you, Chief, and to you and all the police officers on the streets that are working hard. Anybody else? County Supervisor, do you have anything to say, sir? Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everybody. This meeting is now adjourned.